Hey, welcome back. You're in the kitchen with Padre. Today we're going to make chicken paprikash. But you know what? If you like this content, and this is really important if you want us to continue doing these shows, please like, share, and most importantly, subscribe. It'll make a world of difference to us, and I really deeply appreciate it. So anyway, chicken paprikash. Now, the first time I had this is a Hungarian dish. The first time I had this, I was a seminarian, very skinny at that time, but I was a seminarian at St. Meinrad, and I had a wonderful literature teacher, and he was Hungarian. And he invited a group of us over to his house, and he made chicken paprikash. I had never heard of it. The sound of it was a little unusual, but it's a dish that people serve on a regular basis, especially if you're a Hungarian or Eastern European sort of background. Actually, in the movie The Avengers Civil War, there's a scene where Vision is making something and Wanda, the Scarlet Witch, comes out and she says, "Oh, what smells so good? Are you making chicken paprikash?"
A pinch of paprika. A pinch.
Is that Paprikash?
I thought it might lift your spirits.
And he says, yes. And he says, he's reading the instructions. He says, and a pinch of paprika. Well, I'm glad they mentioned chicken paprikash, but it's entirely wrong. It takes a lot of paprika to make chicken paprikash. So, a Hungarian dish. And we're going to start with making, it's always served with like a dumpling. And so I'm going to use spaetzle or spaetzle, as some people call it. I learned it when I lived in Germany as spaetzle, and that's what it is. It's a small dumpling that is easily made. And we're going to start with the batter, and then we'll move to the chicken paprikash. Here are my list of ingredients. I have 2 cups of all-purpose flour. I have a teaspoon of table salt. I have a half teaspoon of white pepper. I'm going to put a half a teaspoon freshly grated nutmeg, and this is really important. The nutmeg you buy in cans is usually stale, and also there's been I've read some things that it's mostly sawdust. So it's always better to grate this yourself. It makes a world of difference in the taste. I have 3 large eggs and 3/4 cup of whole milk. So let's begin this process. We're going to put our 2 cups of flour, half a teaspoon of salt, half a teaspoon of white pepper. Now I like white pepper because I just don't like to see the specks inside the spaetzle. But if you want to use, if all you have is black pepper, that will work. You know, Hungary has a rich tradition of Catholicism. In fact, its patron saint, Stephen, was their first king, and he's responsible. So I'm just going to grate a little of this in here. He's responsible for the building of many of the churches in Hungary. And so Hungary has always been and continues to be a Catholic country. And so we look to Stephen for his dedication to building churches. He's also attributed to creating a tithing system, which has kind of fallen out of practice in the Catholic Church. So here at St. John Evangelist, we're trying to bring that back. So I'm going to whisk my 3 eggs, and I'm going to add some of the milk to this, just because I like to have, but I'm going to reserve the rest of the milk because this dough is going to be sticky, but I don't want it too thin. It's just got to be, so we're going to pour this into here. I'm just going to fold this in. Yeah, this is still just a little bit too thick for me. So we don't want it so tight. We want it looser than this. And as it sits, because we're going to set this aside for about a half hour, We'll cover it with saran wrap. Yeah, I just think it's a little tight. So you got to play with it. It's like when you make bread, you got to watch. It's more important to watch the, there we go. That's what I want. So you see the consistency. I want to just keep stirring it. We don't want any lumps in this. Now, we're going to set this aside, like I said, for about a half hour, and we'll be right back as we begin the process for the chicken paprikash. So let me take you through the list of ingredients for the paprikash. I have 2 packages of bone-in chicken thighs. Now, I prefer to leave the skin on, and I prefer to have the bone in. I just think whenever you're cooking chicken, the bone-in just adds some flavor. It's a little bit more challenging to eat, but still what we're after is the quality and the taste of the food. So we have that. We're going to use some neutral oil. I like to use avocado oil. It's organic. It's flavorless. It has a high burn point. So it's a really useful oil to use in cooking. This is a couple cups of homemade chicken stock. This is a half a cup of wine. This is a little red pepper, ground red pepper. This is 3 tablespoons of paprika, sweet paprika, and that's key. Paprika comes smoked paprika, hot paprika, and sweet paprika. This recipe, it doesn't work when you use the smoked paprika. So always, if you're making this recipe, sweet paprika. I have 6 cloves of garlic that are crushed, a 14.5 can of tomatoes. This particular can also has a little garlic in it and olive oil. It won't hurt. It'll just add the extra flavor. We have 1 large red pepper, thinly sliced. We did this on a mandolin attachment to my little device. You want them thin. I kind of want this stuff to melt into the sauce. We didn't have a large onion, so I used 2 medium onions, but typically this calls for a large onion. Okay, that's good enough. Salt and pepper. So I'm going to salt and pepper the chicken breast. You notice I'm doing it up high because that causes it to spread more evenly. And once I do this side of the chicken, I will turn them over. And now I've touched chicken, and I will not be able to put my hand in the salt and pepper. All right. Okay, great. Okay. I'm going to set this aside and get my burner out, and we'll get going on making this wonderful dish. So I just added the avocado oil. I'm going to let it heat up a bit. So you can tell when the top begins to shimmer that you got it up hot enough. We're going to put the chicken in skin side down. There we go. So we're probably going to have to do this in batches. What I'm going to try to do, we want that skin to be crispy, and it takes, it's going to go in the oven for like 30-40 minutes, and we're going to leave that skin on the top so it continues to be crispy. This is going to take 5 minutes on the skin side and 4 minutes on the other side. We'll be back when we're closer to the end of this. We're ready to finish this. The chicken is done. You're going to take the chicken and tint it. It'll go back into the dish when it goes in the oven. Now we're going to actually make the sauce, the paprikash sauce. We're going to begin by making sure that and by the way, the chicken was cooked on medium heat, okay? We're going to lower this temperature a bit because we don't want to burn. But we got lots of flan in here. most, if not all, the stuff on the sides is going to come off when we put the liquid in here. See how the onions are browning? Okay. We're going to add a little salt and pepper at this point. And then comes the red pepper. And again, you'll notice that I slice this very, very thin because I want it to melt into the sauce. I don't want, as you bite into this, to have crunchiness. And the way to achieve that is to slice your vegetables thin. That's why I use the mandolin for this. And if you look in here, you can see most of the font already just by the sweat of the onions. Okay, good. Now, I'm going to put the garlic in. You got to be careful with the garlic because you don't want to put it into a hot skillet because it'll burn and the garlic will taste very bitter. So, at this point, the temperature is down. The other vegetables have sweated. I'm going to mix that in there. And now, this is not part of the recipe. This is just because I like to do this. I'm going to put a little tomato paste in here because I just can't bring myself to make a stew without a little tomato paste. Key to tomato paste, you have to cook it out. It also is very bitter. So you take it in here. It's going to be in here for like a couple minutes before I put the paprika in. It also has to cook down. So we're going to take this in. You see it's all pretty much incorporated. It's got to cook and get that tomato, that bitter taste out. And it's just going to be a little umami in the background. Now we're about ready for the star of the show. And that is our 3 tablespoons of paprika. Sweet paprika again. I'm going to spread it in here. Now, some recipes call for it mixing it into your liquids. But I don't think that really is going to be that helpful because it clumps in liquid. So I think it prefers to be more like right incorporated into, and you can see the onions and the pepper. Oh my goodness, the smell. Wow, that hit me. Whoa, does that smell good? We're just going to cook that paprika, and you can see there's no clumps whatsoever. It has completely incorporated into this base. I'm going to add 1/2 cup of wine. And this should take up anything that's on the side. Look at this. There's hardly anything. Can you guys get in here? Look at that. Can you smell this? You don't at home, I'm sorry. But it smells, you just have to make it for yourself to know what it smells like. Smells great. Now, again, this is optional. This is a 1/2 teaspoon of red pepper. And this happens to be Calabrese chili pepper, so ground down. It just wants a little heat in the background. And you can leave it out or you can put more in depending on how much you like. I think the alcohol from the wine has pretty much cooked off, and now it's time to add our diced tomatoes. So I incorporate that inside here. In the final step, I'm going to add just a little bit more salt and pepper, just a pinch. And now we have the 2 cups of homemade chicken stock. You don't have to use homemade chicken stock. You can use regular chicken stock. I just like, and the way I make my chicken stock is so simple. I take the carcass of a Sam's or Costco rotisserie chicken, throw it in a pot, fill it with regular chicken stock from a carton, add my vegetables, and cook it for like 3 hours. Strain it, and you end up with a nice, rich bone. There we go. This is going to cook in the oven at 300 degrees for about 30 minutes. And the challenge for me today is I've made too much chicken. Typically, you want to put in like 6 chicken thighs in this. And you don't want to use chicken breast because the white meat will dry out. So I'm going to put the chicken back in here, skin side up, and we're going to transfer it to the oven. So I'm returning the chicken to the pot. And a couple of these are going to have to be submerged because I just don't have enough room for all this chicken. So that just means that the skin is not going to be that crispy. So what I'm looking for is the pieces that don't have that much char on them. Now the rest of this should go on the top. We're going to put it again into a 300-degree oven. So we're ready now to make the spaetzle, or spaetzle. The dough we made at the very beginning, it's sit here. I'm just going to fold it a couple times to loosen it up. Now I have what might be considered a fancy spaetzle maker. You put it over here. It's basically like a pancake batter that you put in and then you just go back and forth. Now, I'm going to tell you this is a mess. It's always a mess. If you don't have something like this, I make spaetzle enough that this makes sense, then you can always do something like this. You can simply take a little bit of the batter and with another spoon, drop it in. And once it floats to the top, we're going to see that in a second. By the way, I've salted the water just like I would for pasta. It is now coming towards the top. There we go. Once it comes to the top, it's done. Because it's the only little spaetzle in here. That's all there is to it. So you can do this if you want by the old-fashioned way, or we'll try this. Now, one of the things that I found that's helpful is using ice water. Take ice water and put it on the top of this and in my scooper, and you're going to see the magic happen here. Put the spaetzle mix in, and here we go. It just drops in. And you got to do this in batches because you can't keep doing it because it'll get too gummy inside there. Just keep rolling it back and forth until there's no more batter in the, and already the spaetzle is coming to the top. Now, when you do it this way, you're going to make more uniform shapes. As you can see, this spaetzle is smaller. Okay, so it does make sense to use this. And we're just going to drain it on the top here. And actually, using that cold water really makes a difference. So we get all this out of here. Now, the spaetzle's done. And I'm going to plate. I'm going to saute the spaetzle with clarified butter before I serve it. We've got a few more minutes and the Paprikash will come out and we'll plate. And we're serving today our very, very fine maintenance team. Some of them have never tasted chicken Paprikash, so we'll see. So I'm now going to, the spaetzle's been cooked. I have a couple little cubes of garlic. It's not part of the recipe. I just like garlic. If you like garlic, use a couple pieces of garlic in this. Otherwise, don't. I'm using clarified butter. Why? Clarified butter, the milk fat has been burnt out and it has a high burn point. It still has all the flavor of butter, but it doesn't burn. And it doesn't leave big chunks of burning stuff on the bottom. So we're just going to lightly fry the spaetzle. Now I like my spaetzle, I like a little crust on it. Some people don't. So I like that little burnt edge. Give it a little texture to it. Now, you can do with spaetzle, you can add cheese to this, like a mac and cheese type thing. I will often add bacon to it. Spaetzle can be served just like a pasta. Very, very simple. A lot of times just like this, and with, like I make a pork tenderloin, a breaded pork tenderloin with a plum sauce. I think we did a show on that, actually. And we use spaetzle for that oftentimes, just as a side dish. So this is basically all I want to do. It's nicely coated with the butter and the garlic. I'm going to now transfer this to the back burner over here. And keep that on low heat. So I'm going to remove the chicken, skin side up, because we have to add sour cream to the Paprikash. If you look at this right now, you'll see the Paprikash is almost like a soup. I'm going to add sour cream and a little cornstarch. Some people use flour. I just use, instead of 4 tablespoons of flour, I use cornstarch. And the reason I do that is because sometimes it's hard to get the flour taste out. So all these. Now, I have 1 cup of sour cream and 2 tablespoons of cornstarch. This has to be completely incorporated. There's a couple little steps to this. You don't want any lumps in this. Now what we're going to do is if I put the sour cream directly into this boiling liquid, the sour cream will break and curdle. So I've got to find a way to raise the temperature of the sour cream. And I'm going to do that by tempering the cream. So I'm going to take a little bit of the sauce, very little at a time, and add it. And whoops, I turned that the wrong way. And add it to the sour cream. I'm going to keep putting a little bit in there until gradually the temperature of this is going to rise. Now some recipes call, and a lot of people like this, they just put a dollop of sour cream on the plate. I don't like sour cream. So that's just too much for me. So this, for me, is a better way of doing it. Well, it takes a couple extra steps. We're about ready, and I think this is going to be okay. I think the cornstarch gets activated about 260 degrees. All right, let's try. Cross your fingers. We don't want this to curdle. It's not breaking. And what's it going to do? It's going to take this redder sauce and turn it into kind of a pink sauce. Wow. And again, it's like any of these cooking shows are hard to do because as you're preparing the food, we're smelling it. You don't get to do that at home until you make it yourself, but it smells fantastic. So now we're going to plate up. wonderful maintenance team made chicken paprikash today, and maybe some of them have never tasted this before. It's basically a chicken stew, a Hungarian chicken stew with homemade spaetzle, which is like a noodle. So guys, dig in. Let us know what you think.
Okay, it looks delicious.
It does. Nice crispy skin. Might need a little salt.
Actually, that's pretty good.
That it really is. That's actually really good.
What do you think of the spaetzle?
It's really good. I know.
You have a lot of the paprikash in here just sort of soak up the sauce. Yeah.
How's that?
Also, you have bread that will go with that, crusty bread.
That's a winner.
There's a winner.
Very good.
Yeah, it's a nice comfort food on a cold, rainy day,
Which we have.
which is definitely what is happening today. Hey, I hope you enjoyed this episode. We're going to continue eating and say goodbye to you, but look forward to the next time you visit, because you're in the kitchen with Padre.